Fred Astaire said, if there's such a thing as Hollywood royalty, then you were the crown princess. Now,
thank you.
Royalty has its extraordinariness, and it also has its difficulties. Did it throw up difficulties?
Not really, because I lived next door to Lana Turner's daughter. You know, I lived next door to Greta Garbo's niece. I mean, everybody who was there, their parents were famous. But because everybody was famous, it didn't really affect you as a child. You just, you know, we weren't spoiled. We were on schedule. We grew up on schedule. You got up, you had breakfast with your parents, they went to work, you went to school. You came home, or like in my case, I'd go to the studio after school to visit my father and mother. Right? And then my mom would go home, and I'd wait for my father with the rushes, with the daily, which is the daily footage that was shot before. I'd get to see that. And one thing that I just remember, you know what he did? And can you imagine? There's Kirk Douglas and all of these wonderful actors
I can't,
sitting
but
there.
Still, you're going to tell me about it.
You know, and they're making Lust for Life or something like that. And they're waiting to see the scene where Van Gogh cuts his ear off, you know, which I was on the set when they filmed the day before. So they're waiting for this, but my father, for me, would show a cartoon before the rushes. He would show Tom and Jerry's. So Kirk is there going, oh, Christ. Just, can we get on with it, Vincent, you know?
But just to persist a second, I mean, it is very impressive the way that group of people made it normal.
Well, it was an industry town.
Yeah, an industry.
And that was the industry.
When was it that you realized that this was not normal, except among that small group? And when you realized, what was your reaction? I'm just interested.
I think I realized it after I'd got my first job in Best Foot Forward. I was 15, and I'd gotten this job, which meant I could stay in New York, because they didn't think I'd get a job, my parents, and I did. And I came back after 6 months to visit. You know, they'd come to New York and so on. But I went back, and I kept thinking, my God, these houses are huge. Look at these lawns. My God, people have money here or something. Then I realized, no, they don't have money. The studios paid everybody the same thing, but the grandeur was part of the illusion that they wanted to create, the studio heads, you know. So they had all of these beautiful things, and, you know, but Samuel Golden, if he told you what to do, they did it.
Do you have any lessons to learn from your mother's own work in show business?
Oh, she's taught me a great deal.
But I mean, have you learned anything from her mistakes as well as from her achievements?
Yes, I have. Most of the mistakes that have been made that I've been around have not been her fault. I've seen her get pushed around, you know, and I'm sure she doesn't want that to happen to me.
It was control system, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, very much so.
And they controlled your career.
Very much so.
And they controlled the way you looked. And was there any sense
Sure.
that... Was it frightening in a way, that sort of control, for the grown-ups there, that they would get a job, they wouldn't get a job, they're in favour, they're out of favour? It sounds a bit like a court, no?
They were contracted players.
Yeah.
So if you were signed to MGM, you did MGM films, and they kept you working. If you were with Fox, you did that. If you were Betty Davison with Warner Brothers, you kept working at Warner Brothers. It was the roster of stars that each studio had. And I think because my father created the not the A-list, but the group, the Arthur Freed, Vincent Minnelli, that whole group of people. And they made supposedly the best, most expensive pictures. But my father was great because my father didn't follow any rules. You know, he just did what he wanted to do. And he did it in such a way that he never had to explain himself.
Vincent Minnelli and Judy Garland divorced in 1951 amid rumours of Garland's alcoholism, addiction to pills, and unstable behaviour.
She got a hold of pills and started. She was, when we married, she was taking very many of them. And I didn't know it at the time. And then we went to New York for a honeymoon, and she threw the pills in the East River. Said she was through with him. But the minute we got back and things happened at the studio, anything that happened at the studio was just for her mill, you know. She would take the pills.
You talked about your father giving you your dreams in previous interviews.
Yes.
What were they? What were the dreams?
Well, I'd be with my dad after my parents got divorced. And everybody's parents in Hollywood were divorced, so you spent the week with your mother and the weekends with your father. In fact, there was a playground, this little park at Beverly and Fairfax, right, where all of the fathers and all of the kids of divorced parents went on Sundays. And all the men sat together and smoked and talked, and the kids went on the rides.
What were the dreams he gave you?
I think
That's a big thing to say, that your father gave you your dreams. What were they?
He kept showing me the possibilities of dreaming itself. For instance, he'd say, "Who do you want to be today?" If he saw I was upset or disturbed or cranky or, just like a kid who another father would treat a certain way, what my father did with me was said, "Who do you want to be today?" And I could say, "A Spanish dancer." And he'd say, "All right." And we'd get in the car and we'd go to Thrifty and we'd buy some crepe paper and safety pins. And because he had been a costume designer in Chicago years before, we would go home and he would drape and pin this crepe paper on me, big ruffles here, and I'd watch him create this wonderful thing. And then when it was finished, he'd stand back and say, "Now, what does a Spanish dancer do?" And I'd say, "Dance?" He'd say, "Yes."
Dance again, dance again, dance again.
And your mother gave you your drive, you said?
Yes.
There was a performance you did with her here in London at the Palladium in '64.
Yes, the only time we ever worked on stage together. Ever.
What was that like?
Was in London. Oh, it was terrific.